Welcome to Oliver Happy Hour. Y'all, we are coming back to you live and in charge. It's June 14th of 2020. We're in LA, in all different parts of LA. I'm your girl, Daisy O, always ready for the show. And I'm joined by a lovely guest and my two siblings, Debbie Deb.
Debbie Deb here in the building.
Darren.
Hey, y'all.
And Dr. Maisha Beasley.
Hey, everyone.
So, you guys, this is Oliver Happy Hour. We're back again for another week of great conversation. Wanted to start with the En Vogue classic because they're one of my favorite girl groups, Free Your Mind. They wrote about prejudice and overcoming oppression way back in the day, and that song has been playing in my head along with Kirk Franklin Revolution the whole week. So I just wanted to start off with that. But Dr. B, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to join us today and your background and how we know each other.
Oh, okay, cool. So hello, everyone. Maisha Beasley, Dr. Maisha Beasley. I still have to get used to saying that, even though I've been a doctor for a minute now. It still is a little weird for me. I am from the Bay Area. So I say the Bay Area because the Bay Area in total raised me, and I'll get to that a little bit later about my upbringing in the Bay Area. But a little bit of my background. I come from a very large family. My mom has 11 brothers and sisters. I have 43 first cousins, which is huge. And I love it.
Huge.
It's huge. And my dad is an only child. So I have a very, it's interesting to see two very different sides of a Black family. I was raised in the 70s and 80s. And so I'm a 70s baby, went to school in San Diego, got my master's at University of the Pacific, took some time off just to work, and then got my doctorate because I hate to be told no. So I got my doctorate at University of San Francisco, which is very interesting because that's where my grandmother thought we would all go to undergrad at. So to get my terminal degree from the place that my grandmother thought we could only get a BA from was a dope experience. When I say whole, I mean a third of my family was at my dissertation defense, including some very interesting characters in my family. So I have a wealth of experience working with Black girls, Black women in the collegiate experience. And so I'm excited to be here and talk to you about that. How I know Daisy is I worked at UCLA for almost 5 years. I almost got vested. 5 weeks away from getting vested. But I met Daisy there because most of my career has been spent in higher ed, working orientation, parent programs, new student programs, multicultural programs. And Daisy and I ran across each other through mutual colleagues, became fast friends, and now I consider her one of my sisters. So that's how I know Daisy. And thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me in this space. I've been listening, in preparation, but I've known about the Oliver Happy Hour since its conception. So this is very exciting.
Thank you so much for joining. I mean, I feel like we're honored to have a new champ, and hopefully we can. Hopefully we give you a good experience, and and we can welcome you back again. But I'm just so happy that we're able to have you as a guest today.
Thank you.
Yes, and you guys will get to know Dr. B a little bit more as we continue to talk. But I just wanted to say you are my sister too. Thank you for being a great mentor and a friend, and for just about saving me while I was at UCLA and being one of my most trusted confidants there and even past there. So it's just the joy to have you today. So thank you for joining.
Like I told you, I appreciate you so much, and I will tell you every day until we part ways, when we part this life. You're a jewel.
Thank you. Well, we are at episode 102 today, and we have not covered our new music for the past couple of weeks, but as we all know, music is healing. It's one of the healing arts that I do believe for for many people, if not all, that it's definitely come at a time where we need it the most. And we just want to cover some new music that's come out, revisit one of our topics every week. So Darren, lead us off with some new music. What we got this week?
Hopped in the car, you started rolling.
This was called Jaded.
Tryna pin my portion like pills and potions.
By Kaash, Paige.
I'm geeks, fuck it, you already know it. Tryna how much fun when you around and showing. Oh, it's showing. You bad as fuck in a penny, and you know it, babe. All about the cash money, let's go spend it, babe. Used to that fast money, I got a stripper, babe. I got a stripper, babe. She bugs me every day. Hit me up for Doja, and we get stupid, babe. Tired of all the games you play, I cannot fuck with lames. Do you want attention, or do you want more fun? Are you ready for commitment?
She was feeling it when she said commitment. What do you guys think?
Great.
What do you guys
She's close.
Kaash, Paige, I know you guys probably haven't heard from her.
I like how she spells her name. Kaash.
Yeah, it's K-A-A.
A and two A's. Like that.
Single. Definitely check it out. So the other one that I wanted to highlight was Run the Jewels.
Mastered economics.
The new album by Run the Jewels.
This
one's called Just featuring Pharrell. You know, Killer Mike is part of Run the Jewels.
Instigate a follow. Shit. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Get it?
Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar.
Get it?
Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar.
Get it?
Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar.
Get it?
Look at all these slave masters.
Hey.
Been it time, I'm on mine.
Yeah, so you guys know about Run the Jewels. It's straight up political, right? I'm gonna play you guys another one. This is called Out of Sight. NWA, real quick.
Run.
Here come the medicines to sobriety. Like what? Super thuggers dumping on the cut.
What? My motherfucking Uzi weighs a ton. Hit the drum till you hear it go ba-dum-ba-bum-bum.
Run. Piety just really isn't us. What a rush. See you cutting
Well,
up a
what do you guys think? You guys heard of Run the Jewels? Or be honest.
I've never heard this.
You've never heard of them?
I'm old, honey. I still am listening to Spotify playlists with like who am I listening to right now? Kenny Lattimore.
Been breaking my heart.
Right, yeah, you know.
That's all right. That is all right.
But I mean, I'm a hip hop head. Don't get it twisted. But it's old school. I can't. You're inspiring me to come back in. You're inspiring me to come back.
Definitely check out Run the Jewels. So that I'm sure. Have you heard about Killer Mike?
I do know about Killer Mike. I'm not that old, but I just am not. It's not a regular rotation anymore.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely people know about Killer Mike because he's out there politically. Somebody check out his Netflix show.
Yes.
Amazing. You know, guy who always educates about black business ownership. Somebody who invests himself in the Atlanta community. I think 2 weeks ago he came out and made some poignant points. He was at a news conference, you know, but he talked about about collecting and organizing and strategizing. You know, so yeah, definitely check them out. You know, it's a new album from them. So what I'm gonna play next is from Jorja Smith. This one's called Rouge. It's off of a Blue Note reimagined album. You know, some jazz-inspired tracks. You're not really saying anything, but it's a cool vibe.
I want you to get together. Put your hands together one time and help me pray for sin or phone to get told. Oh no.
song while in New York in a coffee shop or some shit. I don't know.
You know, Blue Note, the actual record company and the jazz club, was right around the corner from my school, right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Cool.
I went to New York University.
Yeah. I worked for Wagner School.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Well, we gotta talk about that. But yeah, so this is Jorja Smith. This is Blue Note Reimagined. So basically, as you guys hear, her voice is pretty melodic, you know, into the jazz instrumentation, very soft, you know. So that's something very chill. And this one is something new you guys told me about. I haven't even heard it. This is Chloe and Halle. It's called Do It, off of their new album, The Ungodly Hour. What do you guys think?
It's a real good vibe. You know, you could work out to this. You could bump it in your car. It's a good summer song.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like it too. I like it myself.
Yeah. I'm a grownish fan.
You're a grownish fan?
I am. I mean, I'm old on the outside, but I'm like a 15-year-old girl.
It's good.
They got the whole album that came out too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is all called the Ungodly album. You know, it's the new album. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. I bet. You know. Yeah. So
these girls are Beyonce's artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
They started on YouTube. They had a YouTube, and they were just doing, you know, covers of, you know, different old songs and doing duets and stuff. It's really good to see them and their progress over the years. Like, it was they're actresses too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they play twins on
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. They're really good. I like them.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's new music, you guys. I guess we'll just close out with this Kari Faux. This one's called Low Key Superstar.
Chilling with your boo, she say you my biggest fan. Yeah, I'm still that bitch, but now I'm feeling like a man. All up in my business, but you ain't on payroll. Waving at you haters like my name was Mano. Ass bitches need to drink a Fago. Got time on your hands, you should start a talk show. I don't give no fuck because what do they know? Yeah, you're trying to beat the moves, but you know I stay low. I let the people talk, I let the people talk, I let the people talk. I said I let the people talk, I let the people talk, I let the people talk.
Well, that's new music, you guys.
Hey.
So why don't we get to talking since you're talking about letting the people talk?
Right.
All right.
Almost like you did that on purpose there.
Right. Man, did you plan that?
You know what? You know, I saw it and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just play it. I forgot that she said that, but I'm glad it worked out. Yeah, so that's new music. Yeah.
What do you guys think about that selection this week? I thought it was perfect, Aaron.
Yeah, that was perfect. Perfect. Of course, that doesn't cover all the new music, but you know,
New
they are
recent.
perfect.
So let's get right into what's poppin'. Devin, you ready? What's poppin'?
I'm not ready.
We can't do the whole.
ASAP.
What's poppin'?
All right, y'all.
You tried it this time.
I mean, you know what's poppin'?
I should have faded out probably sooner so we can hear you, Devin.
Yeah.
You and T.I. weren't in sync.
Things just go wrong.
See, that's why we don't even do it, because we're all out of sync. Okay.
We tried it. Well, you know, the protests have continued this week with a whole host of different marches happening again worldwide. I just wanted to kind of cover two most recent issues that have come up with modern day lynching, and we kind of talked about this before. Darren, can you turn the music down a little bit? So yeah, two Black men, unfortunately, were found hanging from a tree most recently. Malcolm Harsch was found in front of the public library in Victorville on May 31st. So this was a couple of weeks ago, or just about a week and a half ago. And then one this past week, Robert Fuller in Palmdale, across from City Hall. The sheriffs and the police are saying that they were suicide, but investigations are actually underway regarding these men found hanging from trees. And I just wanted to check in with you all about, what do you think about this? What's happening?
You're good, Devin.
It's just, I honestly, like, I really had to like disconnect this week from everything because, like, you know, all of this racism, like this blatant like racism that we see day by day, it's very overwhelming. It's very disappointing. It's very sad. And I have like so much empathy for these victims and their families because it's very sad. And just to see like that this is ongoing, like we hearing about something new every day, every other day, every week. Like, when is this gonna stop? Like, and that's just, oh, it's just very sad. Like, it's saddening. Like, I'm really kind of like getting choked up right now because it's like, what the heck? I just don't understand. Like, just thinking about Breonna Taylor and her situation, like how the officers don't even have, like, they are still out, you know, and even though they passed this law, like, they're still out, they're still getting paid. Like, we still got work to do. We still have a lot of work to do. That's just what it is.
Yeah. What about you? What about you, Darren?
No, completely. I mean, I agree with what Devin was saying because, I don't know, it is because you want to disconnect. But I think I was even more angered after finding out that the sheriff's department quickly ruled it a suicide. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, the guy is hanging from a tree in a public square. And Daisy, were we not just talking about this last weekend? Were we not just talking about how it would be a public spectacle to hang a Black person in the public square?
We just talked about it.
Literally last week. Mm-hmm. And it's very eerie because even before George Floyd died, then we had talked really about Ahmaud Arbery, about Breonna Taylor, because we heard, like, 1 week we heard about Ahmaud, the next week we heard about Breonna, and then, you know, and then this. Mm-hmm. I mean, all it is to me is it's literally just showing us what's going on. Racism is
like,
alive. It ain't never died.
Alive and well.
It ain't never died. When has it ever died? And when has it ever decreased, really? It's just not in the news. And you already see the news media and stuff. They already don't want to cover the protests no more. That's already been the hot news for 2 weeks. But now they're getting calls from people, oh, why don't you guys talk about something else, like the weather?
Right.
You know, and then, you know, because you know how short attention spans some of these people be. And then people just get complacent, like, oh, I'm just gonna order from a Black restaurant on Postmates and feel better about my day.
No, for real.
Right.
That's how they be
doing the job.
Right. Yeah.
What about you, Dr. B? How you feeling?
You know, it's interesting. I work in a predominantly white space in industry. I work in educational technology. And so over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot come out from educational institutions about Black Lives Mattering and about how people feel. And one of the conversations I had with some work colleagues this past week, it was like, this is new for you, but this is my everyday. And I said, you know, nobody thought about the fact that even though you all are thinking about these statements and such, like there are those of us who have to live through this every day. Case in point, during the quarantine, I went back to the Bay Area to stay with my parents. They live in a gated community in like east of the Bay Area. And I was going on a nightly walk, and it's a very nice walk around like 3 little lakes. And, you know, my parents have worked really hard. My mom, my stepdad have worked really hard for everything that they have. And I was walking, I think I might have stopped to tie my shoe, or I might have been on a phone call. I can't really remember, but the picnic table I stopped at had the word nigger etched into the picnic table. And that was just in April. So I went like April 3rd, and I came back here like right after Mother's Day. So, you know, when you say like, oh, well, maybe that was like January or February or even last year, it doesn't matter. But like, just to make it clear, that was less than 6 weeks ago that we saw the words etched into the picnic table. And I came back home, told my mom, she got it erased, what was crazy. And I hope your listeners are not offended, but like there was male genitalia right next to it on the picnic table. And they didn't remove the male genitalia picture, but they removed the N-word. It was just like, so you don't care about misogyny, but like you have to tell them for each thing. So misogyny is not okay. Calling people N-word is not okay.
Right.
Met with the fact that like you have to have a pass to spend the night in her complex or in their gated community. And one night the guy just kind of got into me about like how many nights I had been there and start questioning me. Again, I'm a doctor. I have gotten all of the degrees you can get. I think I'm very well spoken, but it doesn't remove my Blackness, right? It doesn't remove my womanhood. It doesn't remove the fact that I have to think about that every day. And so as we have these like protests and things going on, I'm inspired, but I'm also like, for the white folks who have emailed me every hour on the hour since last Monday about being sad about whatever white folks are doing, like this is real for me every day. So thank you for coming to the party. I appreciate you. God bless you. But this is my everyday struggle.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for sharing that. And I think for me, it is eerie. As Darren was mentioning, this is definitely something that we have talked about for the past few weeks, and even in episodes before this. And I remember in college when I was an undergrad, I wrote a paper about modern day slavery. And my professor actually used that paper as a topic of conversation. One, she was a white woman. She never asked me if I felt comfortable with her doing that. She never said, hey, Daisy, I want to use this paper in conversation. And I distinctly remember, one, I was the only Black person in this discussion class. It was an English class. And I remember multiple white students in the class specifically saying slavery doesn't exist anymore. Why like who would write something like this? And I felt angered at my professor, but I was also really annoyed by the students who were just so
oblivious.
And this was when I was in college. So this was many, many years ago, you know what I mean? Like over 10 years ago. And I would say that's when I realized that obviously people are not aware, but slavery was, me writing the paper, I don't know why I wrote it, but it was just in my heart to write it. And I just knew slavery and modern day slavery, modern day racism, whatever that had evolved to, whatever it has evolved to today, I knew that it still existed, and I wanted to bring conversation to it. Mind you, I didn't know my professor was going to talk about it, but I'm actually glad that she did, because it made me realize, like, man, these people around here are in college and they still don't know. They still just uneducated. Okay.
That's what happens when you come from a suburban place, or when you come over from, even if you come over from Westwood, let's be real, or some maybe not Westwood, but Sawtell, you know, or even, you know, people will be oblivious because of their everyday. They do not encounter it, and they have very few people that are actually Black that are around them, and none of them make the connection. I mean, thankfully, when I was at NYU, I was able to take a course called Lyrics on Lockdown, where we taught a class at Rikers Island, you know, to some of the juveniles there that they had. I mean, and just then, you know, one of the first books that I got, it was even before the even publishing date, really, was the new Jim Crow. You know, and you know, just reading that book and just talking about how that is the modern day slavery. You know, the 13th Amendment, it outlawed all forms of slavery except for confinement of persons in prison. So literally, we have this whole labor force that's getting pennies on the dollar to do labor for the different states. Talk about that's not any incentive, yet alone having these prisons being for profit that they contract with.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, it exists, and I'm happy that we continue to talk about it. And I just send prayers and condolences to those members' families, as well as Rayshard Brooks, who was outside of Wendy's in Atlanta a couple of days ago. The police officers fired at him as he was running away. The police were caught because he wasn't feeling well and he was sleeping in his car. So tell me how someone who is not armed, not a threat, not killing other people, how is it that this Black man who actually needed help because he was not feeling well and he pulled over simply to get some reprieve, how did he end up dead?
Right. I seen a video of him when they were questioning him, and they were asking him if he had too much to drink, and he sound like in his voice he sounded a little like flirred, just a little flirt. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that was because, you know, he wasn't feeling well, or maybe he did have a couple of drinks. He just didn't want to tell them, like. But I don't even know what caused him to run away, but that's not an excuse for them to fucking shoot him dead.
Well, yeah.
No, I just wanted to bring this up.
So Lamar, just, you know, he ran away with the taser gun. He struggled with it. They were trying to arrest him for DUI, you know, and he got away and he took one of their tasers, you know, and so he ran off with the taser and then they shot him in the back as he was running away. So it's just like, was that necessary for? But even is that necessary? You're literally, as an officer, that officer, he was upset that the dude took his taser and started running away, and he panicked and he started shooting at him. Like, what is he gonna do? Go off and use the stun gun? I mean, the taser gun on somebody else?
And in all honesty,
what did they teach you in the police academy? You run your two legs and you chase after him.
Right. And I wanted to bring
what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up too because there was a similar incident, not similar, but they recently arrested a white male who was shooting at the police. He was actually, did you guys hear about this? I don't know the young man's name, but it happened around the same time of Rayshard Brooks, which is why people are outraged. You have a man who just grabbed a taser and was running away, and then you have a white man who was literally shooting at the police, and somehow this white man ended up being taken into custody unharmed.
But that's always just like Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof shoots those people. All these white mass murderers, if they don't shoot themselves, they're not gonna die. Let's just put it that way. Those mass shooters, many of them, the ones who were dead, was because they shot their own selves. Police are over there, don't shoot you know? Oh my goodness, this guy shot himself in the head. We can't apprehend him for justice. Black guy runs away, you shoot him 3 times in the back. Oh, well, we gotta stop him. You know,
what made it so easy to shoot Black people? What is going on?
They think we worthless. They like that's just another Black man. That's just another Black woman dead.
Well, the police chief resigned, and the officer that actually shot him was fired. Whether he'll face charges or actually be incriminated or go to jail, we don't know. So that's, but you know, a lot of protests have come out of Atlanta from that, and then there was Wendy's was burned down, but then did you guys see that video? Excuse me, of a white woman?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so
the man was like, y'all see this? It's not us. Y'all see this?
Yes. Very common. I just want y'all to see.
Right.
Twitter has been Twitter and I don't even know about Facebook, but I haven't seen a lot of stuff on Twitter. So Twitter has literally been spreading a lot of these videos out like wildfire.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just also wanted to bring up the amount of protests that are happening. A Black Lives Matter march happened today off of Hollywood Boulevard, and we are seeing a lot of Black Lives Matter being drawn into the painted onto the asphalt in the streets across the globe, actually, and in a lot of cities in particular. But in Hollywood, they also created one recently to go along with the march. It was also normally today would be like Pride Day, it will be Pride weekend. So Black Lives Matter and Pride had a march today off of Hollywood. So many members joined together to march and to continue to protest these issues. In addition to that, did you guys see, what did you want to say, Darren?
Well, like, I guess what I did hear was that Black Lives Matter, that there wasn't a coordination between like the organizers of the LA Pride out here. It was just literally Black Lives Matter and a few other activists who put this on without, they did not request assistance from the LAPD. Just to note that, let's just put that out there. I didn't know what the organizers of out there in West Hollywood, because let's be real about West Hollywood. It's not like they've been pretty nice to Black people either. Let's just be real. Those white gays, it's not like they not
the white gays.
Let's be speak white gay.
This is just a specific. Let me give us a specific PSA for the white gays. You talking to you. I'm sorry, Darren. It tickled my little soul that you wanted to specifically call out the white gays in West Hollywood. You know who you are. Damn, Vicente.
Oh. But it's
sorry. Go ahead, make your point, please.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Anyway, right.
Yeah. So I mean, we just know, like, don't be out here. Me and Maisha were actually talking about performative allyship earlier, and what that actually looks like. Because Darren, you bring up a good point that I wanted to mention is, as you mentioned, the white gays and maybe some white people who claim to be allies. Many of them are doing this as a performative allyship. Dr. B, like, what were we talking about earlier that you want to highlight from that?
Oh boy. I mean, here's my deal. I want to just go on record and say my best friend in the whole entire world is a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
We've been best friends since we were freshman year of high school. And she's more about it than I am in high school. Like she was ready to get it in if you cross Maisha in the wrong way, which I appreciated because we grew up in a predominantly white environment. But the performative piece for me is like, if you didn't call my name, call my phone, text me, email me, send me a Twitter message, Instagram, Facebook, and I haven't talked to you, and then you say, I'm sorry about what's happening, as though somebody in my own family died. At first, you guys, I'm gonna be so honest. When people started hitting me up on Monday morning after Tuesday after the whole George Floyd thing, I was like, did somebody in my family die? And I went on Facebook because I was like,
what happened? Right.
What happened?
No, really.
Like, people follow my friends or my family and something happened, but then I was like, and then I had to ask, like, I asked my best friend, I was like, is there an email going out to all the white people asking y'all to send emails to all of your Black friends? I wanted to know. She goes, hold on, let me check. No, we ain't got nothing. And so for me, don't pretend that Black lives matter to you now, right, when as a doctor, I still not paid an equal wage of a white man. I am still, I still can't get a job using my skill set or my degree. I still am microaggressed every day, and you refuse to have trainings or learning and development opportunities for me or for others in the spaces I work in. And I'm not just talking about my space. I'm talking about this is happening to all of my friends. I have 3 or 4 other friends who are women of color who have PhDs who are still not getting paid at the same rate as their white counterparts with master's degrees and with less experience. And, so the performative nature for me really is around you should have been thinking about the Black lives in your corporations, in your companies, and in your institutions before there had to be a man dying on the street or a woman dying on the street in order for you to tell me that my Black life matter. I know it matters. We all know it matters. But for you to be performative now and be woke now, put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where my pocketbook is, really, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that thing, Maisha.
Can you run me my check? That's all.
I need my funds.
Yeah. I got a whole doctorate degree to pay for as a first generation college student.
Okay.
Yeah. So I definitely wanted to highlight that, because I do think the performative allyship versus being a real ally, or what I would call an honest or humble ally, it looks much different. So you guys just be clear about where you stand. And if you still have learning to do, admit that. Don't act like you just all about this cause and ready to be down when you were never down, and your actions currently and previously don't match up with that. Just say, I have some work to do. I'm gonna look in the mirror. I got some changes to make, and make the changes. Because then, like Maisha said, then you can put your money where your mouth is. Then I'm gonna believe you. But otherwise, you're just out here performing, looking like an actor.
For your tell. That's the thing. We'll be able to tell if you put your money where your mouth is, because then we will see institutional and systematic change. So. It's all gonna come out in the wash, as my granny used to say. It's all gonna come out. At the end of the day, we're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna see who's on the left and who's on the right. So, you might as well be on the right side and ask a question. Be okay with being dumb and fumbling across your, because that's okay.
I think
all my friends don't have it right, but at least they're willing to ask the questions, Yeah.
I think you gain more respect when you're real and honest and raw about you not knowing shit, or you not being woke about some shit, or I'm not used to this. I'm sorry, this is not the life that I'm used to, or I don't really see it. I think that's how you gain more respect, because Maisha said, we gonna see if you being real or if you being fake about it. I swear it's this one white guy at work, he really try to be down, and I just be you're trying too hard, sir. It's not that serious. Sit down.
But don't get me started about those people who was at the protest with those signs talking about "Don't kill Black men, I want mixed babies." Oh, you didn't see those signs? Oh, that was in downtown.
Second time now. This is your second time. First, your second time. I'm trying to work on being part of the Oliver family, but you. This is your second time. Listen, if I go face off of this thing, you'll know what happened. I'm not gonna be able to deal with it. I already know.
No, literally, go look on Facebook. I just saw it earlier today. It's literally these I don't know what ethnicity they were, but they had signs that said, BLM, I want mixed babies.
No.
Sit down. Sit down. Just sit down. I don't understand. Like, I mean, like I said, people are like, we're gonna see if you being real and genuine about your shit, and if you're gonna put your money where your mouth is. Like,
yeah. Speaking about being real, y'all, Dave Chappelle
oh,
out with a special, just random special that he wanted to release called 846 on Netflix, on YouTube. I have not seen it yet. So anybody that's seen it, please tell me about it right now, because I want to know.
It was great. It was great. It was about less than half an hour, but really he goes through a history of what's been going on, really, like really since he did Killing Me Softly. Remember, he did Killing Me Softly? He did a bit about police then, and he was just talking about, like, if you've ever, like, listened to me, I've talked about this. And then he reviewed, remember Chris Dorner, the former LAPD officer who was out here terrorizing LA about 10 years ago?
right.
Yeah, so he talked about that, and he talked about, like, all the stuff going on. I mean, it was real quick. It wasn't really comedy. It was just literally a whole monologue.
Oh,
Wow. Just talking about it. It was wonderful. I really suggest people watch it. Even those people who don't find Chappelle funny, I mean, I think it's worth watching because he does spit some real good facts in history.
It lets you know why he is who he is. Like, one of the things about Dave Chappelle is, don't kill me, Oliver Happy Hour. I did not watch his show, The Chappelle Show. I only saw bits and pieces. I was in grad school. Okay, so please let me off the hook.
But definitely watched it.
Yeah, but I love Chappelle. I've loved Chappelle forever, and I think one of the things that is ingenious about him is that he talks about why he came out and said something. He was like, I don't have to. The one thing that he said that gave me all the life in the world, he said, the streets are talking. They don't want to hear from us right now. Like, and that to me said, like, he could have dropped the mic at that point because, like, celebrities aren't leaders. And I love that he was like, I'm going to tell you my story because I am a Black man, but I'm not going to speak on what the streets are talking about because they are speaking for themselves. And that to me was everything we needed to hear from the celebrity, right? Like, because if anybody could say whatever they want to say and get away with it, it was him. So it's almost like they picked straws and was like, you already know it's Chappelle. He got to be the one that goes out and says, this is what we doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm definitely going to check it out. It's something that I have wanted to watch this whole weekend, but just like Devin, I just had to disconnect because it was overwhelming. These past few weeks has been obviously an awakening and a reckoning and things that we've been talking about over the past few weeks. And even, at the end of last year and talking about 2020, like it's about to be 2020 vision, a reckoning. And then all this happens. You're like, okay, God, thank you.
Like, slow down, God. Hold on. Hold on.
Lord, for the reckoning. We're just trying to roll with the punches. And speaking of another comedian that is a Black male that has had to deal with police brutality recently is Jay Pharoah from SNL. Sorry, you guys, they popped in fireworks again. I
almost ducked. I'm from, part of me is from Oakland, so I almost got under this table. Like, you got one more time.
Jay Pharoah from SNL actually recently had police put their knees on his neck right here in Los Angeles, California. Did anyone see the video that he posted?
I did not, but I knew that he was talking about his encounter with the police, but I didn't see it. Oh, looks like it was on Good Morning America.
Yeah, I saw it, and it was the thing that got me was like that one-liner. I'm from the suburbs, and my parents kept me from this. This is the first time I've ever been put in handcuffs. And so you think about, like, this guy is probably in his 30s, early 40s, and to, like, be in America as a famous person.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I'm looking at I'm sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Well, no, because I'm over here. I pulled it up, and it's just like they pulled up on him. He's walking in front of a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled up on him.
And he had his beats on, so he wasn't like he had his earphones on, so he didn't hear them. So as he's like walking and not paying attention, they like are more and more, and he's narrating it in the video. So he's talking about it in the video, and he's saying like, I didn't even hear him because I had my beats on, and you know I'm a lot, and I had to tell him to pull up my video to see them Jay Farrow. Then a minute later, they were like sorry, but still had him in the handcuffs. It's just, you know, again.
It's crazy.
It's 2020.
But literally, yeah. But where is the respect for anybody? You know, because they treat him like he was just anybody else, no matter what. I mean, and hopefully he sues. But I mean, that's something that, you know, we could talk about as well, is like why the budget as well probably of the police departments keep going up, because they gotta make all these settlements. We gotta pay out because these officers are overly aggressive or use excessive force.
Say that thing, Darren.
Yeah.
Say that thing.
Yeah. All you got to do is spend the money ahead of time. I always say this about anything that I've ever done in life. Like if you, well, you know, DJ Quick said it best. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Oh,
there we go.
Quick is the name.
Please don't ask me for no check, DJ Quick. I ain't got no money. But I'm just saying, like, if we would be more proactive as a society, if we spend the money on the front end, we wouldn't have to spend it on the back end.
There you go. Right. Debbie, Deb, what were you going to say? You're going to say something.
Oh, no, I was going to say, because I remember watching this video, speaking of, like, people of cops, like, just racially profiling people and you know, making a mistake of somebody that is like in a high rank or something like that. It was this guy, this African guy. I want to say he was a part of like the African, some type of FBI. He was like in law enforcement. I know you guys probably seen it. And
I saw it.
Yeah, and the cops were just like just racially profiling him, messing with him, and he's like, what do you guys messing with me for? I'm sitting here being like, minding my own business, and just because you guys say I fit the description of somebody that randomly reported a robbery or something, and he was like, you guys are gonna like pay for this, like if y'all look at my, he was like, look at my ID, like, and then as soon as they looked at it, they were like, oh, like they were like, we're sorry, we thought you were somebody else, and they just let him go.
Right, but run me those badge numbers. Run me your name.
And that's what he was saying. I need your badge numbers. I need your name. Like, y'all not getting away with this.
But the thing is that's the thing, is that all of it goes unchecked. They just say like, oh yeah, it was a misunderstanding, and then they keep going and doing the same thing over and over again. That's why, you know, well, what are we supposed to talk about next, Daisy? We're not talking about defunding the police.
Conversation with Dr. B. But what were you gonna say, Darren?
Well, no, we can get into it in politics when we're talking about more about defunding the police and things like that, and explain, you know, more about it.
Yeah, great. So because we do want to talk about defunding the police. It has been a hot topic this week, and something that we did mention last weekend as well. As supporters of it, we do support defunding the police and putting more money into social services and providing job opportunities for people that are properly trained to handle situations that police have been failing in terms of their response in general. But we do want to lead this next part of the conversation with a conversation with Dr. B, in talking about young women in college specifically, because that is your expertise. Dr. B. So, you know, you have had experience with having over 300 women at UCLA in your sister-to-sister class over the past, what did you say, 12 years?
Well, 7 years, but we've taught the class 14 times.
Got it. Over the last 7 years, taught the class 14 times, so that's about 2 quarters a year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just wanted to hear from you as a Black female instructor and also working with young women in the college settings, like how is their interactions been in terms of their identity development among the African diaspora?
Yeah. So first I want to shout out the folks that I created the course with, because I did not do this on my own. So Dr. John Lee Tunstall and Dr. Samara Blackman, and I, along with a PhD student at the time, created a class at UCLA as an answer to the Black male class. It was called Blacklamated in 2013. So just to give you a little history of it, right? So I started my doctorate in 2011, and I thought I was going to work with Black men specifically. The reason I thought I was going to do my research with Black men was because I have 3 brothers. Like I said, I have 43 first cousins, and out of those 43 first cousins, only one of my Black male cousins had graduated with a BA from a 4-year university. And so I was like, I gotta solve this problem with why, Black men aren't graduating from college at the same rate that Black women are. And then I met Dr. Tyrone Howard, and, he was like, tell me your story. And so I told him about my upbringing in both Oakland and the suburbs of Oakland. And he was like, research is me search, Maisha. And then he was like, so I think you should work with Black women. I was like, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to do Black men, so I went to Blacklamated class, and then I went to a conference called NASPA, which is a conference for student affairs professionals, and in that conference there was like, I think 30 something sessions about Black men. None about Black women, not one. Not one. It was a 4-day conference, and I was like, maybe I'm tripping, right? So like, me being who I am, I went through the pamphlet like 3 or 4 times, right? Then I was asking around, and there was nothing. And so I came back to Dr. Howard, and I said, all right, fine. What you want me to do? And he said, I'm glad you have seen it my way. He's like, I want you to have a class that answers the Blacklamated class for Black men. And I said, okay. He's like, but there's some people that I think you should do it with. So we think very easily, and this is getting to the question that you're asking, Daisy, because I think you have to set it up, right? So we thought we were going to take the Blacklamated syllabus, slap Black women, ate it, right? Like, we didn't know what we were going to call it, but we thought we just slap it, slap. And we were like, oh, there's things missing here. There's gaps here. And we realized quickly that we couldn't take the Black male experience and transfer it into the Black female experience, because the things that Black men were talking about were like how to not be co-opted as an athlete, how to utilize your resources, and how to stay out of trouble, and sex health educators coming in to talk about how to not, Title IX educators coming in, how to not get caught up in the situations that you shouldn't be caught up into, and it was like just a list of folks coming into class, which worked for them. But what we realize about Black women is, if we don't have community, I'm not coming to class and telling you all my business if I don't know you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's facts.
Yeah, right? Like, you want me to tell my business? So we realized very quickly we had to have a different setup. And so we set the class up very strategically. And just to be clear, we were all either finishing a doctorate or had completed a doctorate. So you had, for the first time, Black women who were at a Research One institution having Black women teach them for the first time. Right? So that in itself was like mind blowing.
Before, like even in like from primary school, like all that.
It gets into these layers, right? Like, who are most of the teachers in elementary and high school? White women.
White women, yeah.
Right? So some of these girls may have had like one Black woman teacher, right? I think I had my first Black teacher in the 7th grade, right? And then I don't think I had another Black teacher until I got to college.
Wow.
Right. Well, we had Miss Harrison.
Well, I had my first Black teacher was what? I was in preschool.
3rd grade. Okay. Well, we also grew up in Compton, Devin.
Yeah, Compton, Carson. I mean, and I had the luxury that I went to Audubon, which was just like a traditionally, you know, it's a lot smaller now, but, you know, it was Black excellence, you know, right there in Levert Park. Yeah, so you have I had all these, but by the time I got there, like, my teachers were there for 20, 30 years already, you know? So,
this is one of the things that I love about LA, because you do have the access to Black excellence, but in the Bay Area, it's not the same, right? In the South, depending on where you live in the South, it's not the same, right? And so you're thinking about, these are women coming from all over the country and the world. And UCLA admits 6% of the 100,000 students who apply to the university. And so then you break that down into Black students, and then Black female students, which are at a higher rate than Black male students, but they have probably been in honors classes and been marginalized as the only in their class, right? So they're coming into this class for the first time with all Black women. Like, think about that for a minute.
So yeah, it's kind of like an HBCU experience for the person at a predominantly white institution.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we realized we had to think about that as we were prepping the class. So we talk about community for the first 3 weeks, and then we talk about self-esteem and self-beauty and self-identity for the next 3 weeks. That encompasses relationships and romantic relationships, family relationships. And for the last 3 weeks, we talk about academics and career goals. And one of the things that I love most that we do is we bring in our friends from the community who are in professional careers that these women want to be in, and have them talk about their experience as a Black woman, because it's Pollyanna ish a little bit, right? These Black girls come in and they become Black women, and they think, I'm going to get this degree, and this degree is going to free me from said thing, right? Or I will be seen as equal to said thing. And then these women who are in professional careers, OBGYNs, lawyers, heads of the academy, and then they're like, yeah, no.
It's not that easy, honey.
It's not that easy, honey. And here's how we've overcome. And so I think the layers that I really wanted to just share with you all is that I think one of my arguments and one of the things that I am critiquing in my research and in the work that I do with Black women, with professors and faculty members at high school and colleges, is what I'm critiquing is we have a monolithic view of the way we see Black women. Mm-hmm. And we're still using 1970s methodologies for a 2020 woman. So in the 1970s, when Prop 209 was instated, and most folks were coming from segregated communities, and most folks were coming from all Black this and all Black that, you were talking about how do you, network? How do you get around? How do you do this? How do you do that? And we're still using that methodology for first generation African students who are coming, whose parents are immigrants here, but they are seen as Black in their communities, but Nigerian or Kenyan or Ugandan when they get home. And so they're having to contend with this duality of their personality and of their identity based on where they live currently, but the culture that their families know to be true. I had one young woman say to me, we were talking about slavery in a class, and they were like, how's your family feel about slavery? I'm like, slavery, you enlighten me. We don't know shit about slavery. And, then you have multiracial students in a way that we haven't had them before. And so students who come from these multiracial backgrounds, who might not be raised in a home with their Black families, or might not even know their Black families, and are feeling like, I want to understand my identity as a Black woman or as a multiracial woman because I haven't had that experience. Or women, Black women, African-American women who aren't first generation college students, but are lumped into first generation programming when they get to college, because I still want to feel like part of the community, but I don't need these same resources. So am I taking from other people who need these resources, but because my family had some of these resources? So there's a lot of layers, right? And I don't want to say intersectionality, because intersectionality is really the dual oppression, right? When Kimberly Crenshaw talks about intersectionality, it's not like I'm a Black woman, and that's the intersection. It's that I am oppressed as a woman, and I'm oppressed as a Black person. So the intersectionality of my oppression is what I'm really experiencing and going through. And so that's what Kimberly Crenshaw is talking about. But what I'm talking about are the layers by which these students are coming into college, having to contend with their identity, and then having to contend with how people are seeing them around, you know, them in the college setting, and when they go home, because now I have a different identity that is bucking up against what you raised me to be.
Right, right. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it made me, you know, it's definitely brought up some things for me, especially when I was in college. And I'll just mention this, as we talk about identity and the Black female's experience in terms of connecting with the Black culture and their Black identity in general. I was in my master's of social work program at USC, and I literally had another Black, it was multiple other Black women in the class, but it was the activity where you had to bring in a part of your culture that represented your experience. So I brought in the hot comb because it was a part of my family culture, but also a part of the Black culture, right? So I bring in the hot comb, like, you know, this is me, okay? Represent, this is how I grew up. It's how I bonded with my family. And another Black girl in the class, she did not bring anything. She said, I don't know where my African back ancestors come from. I have no idea where my Black parents or history comes from during slavery, or even after slavery, what name I was given. I just have no form of understanding what being Black in America means. So I couldn't really think of anything. So she brought like some t-shirt or something like that. And it made me think, like, you gotta be kidding me. But you're highlighting, Maisha, exactly what she connected to, which is, I'm a Black woman, but I may be from African descent, or my family, I'm first generation, and I don't connect with the Black experience, but how can I still show up? I wanted to connect that with this Black Lives Matter movement, in that, you know, Black women are not necessarily being highlighted in terms of the deaths or the police brutality, the killings and the murders of some of the Black men that have unfortunately been murdered by police. And why is that? How do we bring, you know, the experience of Black men and Black women to the forefront, and make it a conversation that includes everybody that's experiencing this, is really kind of what I wanted to tap into next. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's good.
I feel like with everything, with the identity, the Black woman's identity, I don't know. Sandra Bland just pops in my head. I feel like Sandra Bland, her situation, and although they made a documentary of, or a small docuseries of what happened to her, but I feel like they didn't look more into that. Like it was just closed case. Like how all of a sudden she just ended up dead. Like she got pulled over for a fail to signal or something like that. And all of a sudden, like the next day or the next 2 days or however many days it was, she just ends up dead, and y'all want to rule it as a suicide? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's just that whole, I really like, and because she was my age, I don't know, I guess maybe that because that hits home, because I don't know, she was a good one, like she was somebody that was really trying to like push the Black Lives Matter movement. Like she was so a lot, like her spirit, her personality, like it just didn't make any sense. And for them to just like close the case and just be like, oh, she just committed suicide, like just like with these guys that just been lynched. Like, why do they feel like it's okay to just rule it as a suicide or just rule it as like, oh, like it was their fault. Like,
you know why, Devin? Is because they can, and they have, and they've used it before. You know, they just said, "Oh, it's a suicide." How the heck could Sandra Bland die from a suicide? You're saying that she hung herself with what was it, like the trash bags that's inside of the cell?
And it just didn't make it. Didn't
No,
add up.
it doesn't make any sense. But the thing is that they will not do an investigation. They're the police. They're the ones that's supposed to investigate and collect information. And look, they didn't. They didn't collect any information. I mean, and then the same thing with that trigger-happy police. Oh, I'm forgetting her name. Oh, I feel terrible. But what was that young lady who she was playing video games with her nephew? Mm-hmm. It was in the early hours of the morning. Mm-hmm. And the neighbor thought that, the door was wide open, so the neighbor, called the police out of concern.
Right.
Come to find, trigger-happy police officer shoots her through her own window. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's numerous cases too, like, and it's just like, okay, is justice being served for these women? Like, even though it's cases of the Black men who, gone unsolved or they haven't, it's still in limbo or whatever. Like, mm-hmm. The women, it's like they just case closed, just like Breonna Taylor. Like, of course, now we celebrating that they passed this law, and now what? But
that law doesn't really do. Come on, let's be real. That law doesn't really do shit. It just says for no-knock warrants, right? They're no longer going to do no-knock warrants. But what they found out was that many times, even if the officer doesn't have a no-knock warrant, they basically don't knock and they just go in. They say police here, and even if you crack the door, they kick it open.
Yes.
Or sometimes they just kick the door open and there's nobody policing the police.
Well, you don't even have to talk about police in order for you to see that Black lives don't matter and Black women are at the end of that conversation. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so I'm a STEM student. I'm the only STEM student in my class. I'm a female Black student in my STEM class. So for those who are watching, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, there's a group project. Nobody wants to be my group member because I'm a Black woman. A Black male will get selected to be in a group because of the stereotypes that exist for Black females. Angry, confrontational, antisocial. Mm-hmm. Really, I'm shy, right? Like, I'm not antisocial, I'm shy. I don't want to speak out because I might say the wrong thing, right? And I have to ask the professor to assign me to a group, right? That's not a microaggression. That's an assault on my intelligence.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Or them saying, oh, well, this is what I've heard. Granted, I'm not a Black woman, so I haven't heard these things, but like saying like, oh, well, Black women are angry or like they're too bossy. And it's like, are you even like listening to what they have to say though? Because many times,
are we bossy? Are we sharing our opinion in an authoritative way that you can't take because you were not sure about your opinion?
Yes.
So this is the thing, right? So if I am not seen as equal to because of my attitude or the way I present myself, and therefore I don't speak up for myself readily, then who will speak up for me, right? Like, I think about Breonna Taylor, like, other Black women are having to still put her name in social media and on news in order for people to keep her name in our memories in the same way that we aren't able to remember. Like, let's name 5 Black men right now who were killed. We could do it. Mm-hmm. Let's name 5 Black women who were killed. We can get there.
I know. I need to find the name of homegirl I was just talking about.
But this is what I'm saying, right? Because it's not perpetrated. But if you, also, can you name 5 Black scientists who are women? Can you name 5 Black doctors who are in social media, like who are out there who are women? Can you name 5 Black engineers who are women? 5 Black mathematicians who are women? Right? Like, am I a Black woman or am I a woman who's Black? Like, if you see me as a woman who is Black, you look at me as someone who is not as worthy, right? But if I'm a Black woman, you can put me in these categories, blah, 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 that we just named. And so my thing, when we teach these young women, we're teaching them to undo and unlearn identities that were given to them so that they can construct their own.
That's a good word, Maisha. That's a good word.
And just so I can say her name was Tatiana Jefferson, who I was mentioning.
Yeah.
And that was in October 2019. So not even that long ago.
Yeah, not even, I mean, it's happening at the same rate. Let's be clear. It's happening at the same rate. But until we get to a place where our Black men and we as Black women love ourselves enough to call each other's names out, even in spaces of excellence, like, we will continue to have this issue. Because listen, I always tell the Black girls, nobody is coming for us. No, like, let me be clear. There is no one who's gonna ride in on a white horse and be like, we finally here for y'all. Y'all ready? It's not gonna happen that way. We have to be willing to put ourselves on the line. And I'm so proud of the young women that we've taught over the years, 300 Black women. We have entrepreneurs. We have girls who are in medical school. We have girls who are, one girl went straight from UCLA into a PhD program that was fully funded, right? So like, we can see that representation matters. Yeah. Seeing yourself seeing yourself in women who have accomplished what you've accomplished and overcome the things that you're going to have to matters as we like set course for this new generation of Black women.
Right. And I think, thank you so much, Dr. B, for sharing that perspective, because I did want to get into that topic of conversation, primarily because we all hear George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and a whole host of other Black men's names, but you are right. The women seem to be forgotten and unseen and not invisible. I think that you used that term. So I do want to highlight Black women primarily because, and Darren, we're going to get into this in a little bit when we talk about defunding the police, our Black feminists have come to our rescue over and over and over again. When I think about Harriet Tubman leading the way for slaves and her bearing that cross to, free slaves in general, how do we come to the aid and the support of Black women like we do our Black men? And how do we as a culture, a Black culture, begin to support each other and uplift each other during this movement, instead of, Black men being like, oh, not really thinking about Black women or saying derogatory things, and Black women, saying negative things about Black men. Like, what is the solution for us to come together and start speaking of each other and saying our names, saying the names of those that have unfortunately passed away more regularly? That is just one of the things that we can just start to say their names out loud and remember them and bring attention to them like we do in the media for the men as well. But what are some of the other solutions as we move forward during this movement to bring attention to our Black women as much as our Black men?
I feel like it's gonna take us coming together more often, reaching out to each other. I recently saw like this video about Breonna Taylor and her mom saying, well, it was different celebrities. So they were saying like, do you know what happened to Breonna Taylor? And it was multiple black women that were celebrities. And I know it was this other like saying, this other hashtag, like Black women, Black men, and they were like tagging people, whatever. it was like a copy and paste type of thing. But it's just gonna come. We all gotta come together. Like, we all have to not judge before we know the person. Like, I feel like that's kind of common with Black women. We tend to judge before we actually know the woman. Sometimes, like, I try not to judge before I know the person, you know, especially if they're a Black woman. I feel like, shoot, at my job, when there was another, because I work for a Japanese company, so, you know, there's Asians, there's predominantly Asians there that work there, or Hispanics, and there's only three Black women in the office. And when I met the first Black woman, I was like, okay, it's another one. All right, good.
Are you talking about celebrating each other?
Yes, like, hey girl, like, what's up? Like, I don't have to, and then, like, with us complimenting our hair, like, our coworkers, they don't really understand. They just be like, every time I take my braids out, they're like, oh my God, you cut your hair. Like, what? Okay, I didn't cut my hair, I just took my braids out, that's all, okay? Just calm down. But my other coworker, she's became like a great friend to me. We be having our little meetups in a break room or in a restroom, like, where we just have to vent to each other about what we like, I don't want to say oppression, but this, you know, the subtle things that happen, like
institutionalized racism and systemic racism that you experience at work. Understandable. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I feel like, personally, I think, you know, just women, they need to treat other women, other Black women, how they would want to be treated, because all of us are going through the same shit, or we've all been in the same type of situation one way or another. You know, I mean, just women in general, like, we have a lot in common, but Black women, we also have more in common as well, because with this systemic racism, like, we have to come together. We just have to be together.
Thank you, Dev. Thank you. Why do anybody else have any other solutions before we switch into Politricks? Because, you know, we can go all night, but I do want to get into Politricks. But any other final thoughts about solutions?
I do have one other thought, and the one thought I have is, and it kind of spins off of what Devin is talking about. You know, in order for us to kind of change the narrative, we have to be willing to combat the narrative that's currently out there. Right. So one of the things that we say to our girls is, we hold each other down and lift each other up. Mm-hmm. So it's not enough just to hold me down in one space, but when you see me down, you're lifting me up. When, you know, you see me doing well, you're lifting me up. And the one example I'll give is, I know we're switching over to Politricks, is, so I talked about that STEM class, and that was a real story. Right. Mm-hmm. That was a real thing that was happening to our girls when we first started teaching the class. And so one of the women in the class said, no more. I'm done with that. So she created this like spreadsheet, because she is amazingly who she is. And so they made it to where you could find out what other Black girls were taking STEM classes, so that you never had to take STEM classes alone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I loved it. It was like, you know, I don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's in Black Bruins. Don't quote me. Don't at me. Don't ask me, because I don't know. But I do know that they were able to say, like, you don't have to take a STEM class alone. So if you were in the STEM class alone, or you think you're going to take these classes, here are the classes you're going to take, and here's who you could take it with, so that you don't ever have to be alone in that class. And so then it's harder to tell two Black girls, no, you can't be in our group. Right. And so I think if we travel together more often into more spaces in the same way that there's nepotism for white folks every day, all day, instead of being like, oh, if there's 2 Black women in this space as a doctor, somebody might get left out or they might not see my shine. We all have room to shine. So when you're in a corporate situation, or if you're getting, Daisy knows I am the hookup queen. I know a bunch of people and I like to connect people to each other because that is how you remove the narrative that we don't get along. I work with and for Black women all day, every day, right? Like, oh, my friend is an OBGYN who's a Black woman. You need, like, right. I think the connection that we're allowed to give each other when we show up in the room, holding each other down and lifting each other up, there's nothing we can't accomplish, and there's nothing we can't get through together, as opposed to like one over here and one over here.
Thank you for properly saying what I was trying to say.
And I do like that message that's been going around on Facebook and Instagram lately about, like, I'm a Black woman. I hold my other woman up. I like lift up my friend. That is just really amazing. And then the support of Black businesses as well. It's a lot of different articles that have come out to support Black businesses.
Beauty industry, child.
Mm-hmm. Right. I will send the whole list, like, oh, of all the homies, like Rose in Skincare. I'm gonna say it right here, right? Jamaica, I got you, girl, right? Africana, like Hilltop. These are like my peoples, and not because like I'm trying to get something from them. And that's, I think, the other thing that's a misnomer. Ain't nobody trying to get nothing. Like, we're all out here trying to make a way and trying to see each other shine. And so if you shine, I shine.
Yes, basically. There you go. So thank you guys for that conversation. I do think that it was rich and something that, it has been a part of multiple conversations this week, but I just wanted to get your perspectives on it. We are going to switch into Politricks. I'll let Darren lead this conversation because he's our Politricks guy. But Darren, defunding the police has also been a major topic this week, and many people are confused by it, or at least have their own interpretations. But why do we, I think you brought up the question, why do we still need patrol officers to handle social issues like rape or marital counseling? Like, why are police still on the streets responding to these issues? And how does defunding the police really address a lot of these social concerns that they're not able to handle?
Well, I mean, I guess to clarify that defunding the police does not mean eliminate all police funding. Defund the police means that police will be funded and that police will not be overfunded. It means that we will redistribute the different budgets for the different municipalities or the cities where everyone gets a fair share. Defund the police because, one, police should focus on crimes and criminals. Defund the police because police are not mental health counselors. Defund the police because police are not social workers. Defund the police because police are not medical professionals. Defund the police because police are not education specialists. Mm-hmm. Defund the police because police should not be responsible for everything. Mm-hmm. Defund the police emphasizes reassessing our values, investing in our communities, investing in our people, funding our schools, funding our hospitals, funding our services, and funding our infrastructure. Understand that presenting defunding the police as the same as eliminating all funding for police is intentionally misleading and manipulative. And it avoids the real conversation, the fact that police across the country are bloated with their budgets. Yes. 2, they get extra funding from the war on drugs. So you mean they get extra funding for military surplus items. That's why you can see all these military, that's why they can tear gas you so fast. There's nothing to do, I mean, let's really talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that, all they need is 600 hours of training and a high school degree. And you're expecting them to do the same job as other licensed clinical professionals who have hours upon hours over, in order to get a license for the LCSW for social, you need 3,200 hours of training, not to mention the master's degree. So which already means that you already got a bachelor's degree. So you're talking about years and years of experience compared to what, 600 hours of training and how to use your gun? You know, you
say no BA is required.
No BA is required, but LAPD, they want to pay them an extra $7,500 a year just for having a BA. So you tell me you have a BA in art history, like that's supposed to make you such a genius? Maybe you could tell some graffiti writing or something. Does that mean that you can go in and you can actually, because a lot of these cops, look, they're going in these DV situations, and like we were talking about earlier, I had a friend, we were talking about defunding the police, and he was like, well, what if someone has been raped and don't you need the police? I'm like, what the hell is this, Law and Order? Like what? Like I wish we could have Mariska Hargitay and Ice-T go out on the beat and figure this out, and fast forward to a few months later and they successfully convicted the person and everything like that. But let's be real. Do you really
I'm looking at you,
uniformed patrol cops coming with 2 9mm weapons to come and re-traumatize the survivor of this assault? Couldn't we have an emergency social worker or an emergency counselor come out to take a copious notes about what happens, as well as provide probably on-the-spot counseling for that person, and then refer them immediately to other resources that they could obtain so that they could, hopefully that they could heal from this event, and they could get the information and collect it and give it just like the cops would do, submit that report in so that the detective can look for it and figure out who it was so they can bring that person to justice.
Darren?
Darren, I think that you're bringing up a great point, because I saw a post this week that said something about resident assistants in college have more training and are able to better de-escalate a situation than police officers. And weren't you sorry, Darren?
Huh?
Weren't you a resident assistant?
Yeah, I was 2 years as a residence assistant. I've been a social worker for 5 years.
So was I.
And it's just like, but you can.
And this fool mentioned Ice-T though. He didn't mention a resident assistant. This fool went to Ice-T and whatever the girl's name is. I almost unclicked and started to sing the theme song, Darren, because you was on number 3, but you was on the road. You was Darren. Reverend Darren was on the road. I didn't want to stop him. Let me tell you something. You, sir.
Oh, but that's the thing. The officers, they're supposed to be trained to de-escalate these issues or these problems. Like, why are you guys already guns drawn? Like, and it's just, somebody that's outside their house minding their own business, or somebody walking down the street minding their own business, somebody driving in a car minding their own business, and they just want to come disrupt. Like I was telling y'all earlier, that whole experience could be traumatic to somebody. Somebody could freaking have a heart attack, like, because you out, ready to shoot him. Like, what? That just don't make no sense.
Have any of you had run-ins with the police?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I got pulled over a week and a half ago in Culver City. They pulled me over, but it was partially my fault because my tags were expired. You know why they pulled me.
You already do.
But trust me, I feel like my glasses help, but I was shitting bricks, you guys. But it didn't seem like the 2 old cops. Like, it seemed like they were like the volunteer officers out in Culver City. Like, they were just the weekend patrols. So I was like, hey, look, I got my tags. I just need to put them on. And they were like, okay, bye. But that was the last interaction that I've had. That was literally a week and a half ago. But other times I remember, like after remember I was in an incident when I was in shot at, and I had friends who were shot, in front of me, and we're talking to the cops, and the cops over here, they want to fill in stuff on the report. They're like, oh, is you guys chilling up there having a few beers? I was like, no, we were walking to the gas station. We did not have any beers on us. Yeah, so yeah, you guys are chilling around, hanging around, maybe had a few beers, smoking weed or something. I was like, dude, we just told you we were just going to the gas station. So But it's like, I don't know.
Well, Darren, I did want to bring up, because you talked about the police unions yesterday, and I saw in the news, not yesterday, but on the last episode, you were talking about police unions. And yesterday I saw on the news that one of the NYPD police union commissioners was talking about how the protests are super violent and how the citizens are creating a war. But really, it's actually the exact opposite. These police officers are creating a war, and the protests are actually peaceful. So why was he talking about citizens are creating a war? Like, what is happening among the police unions where they need to create this narrative that, and we talked about this, police, you are not at war with the citizens. So why are you creating this narrative, police union commissioner, that peaceful protests are a war?
That is what they do. They're trying to muddy. Devin, go ahead. Say it again.
I'm just saying, like, they just, they're just acting super defensive, like trying to, you know, act like, you know, their force is warranted. Like, what, like, yeah, they're just trying to act like their force is warranted. I feel like they're, like you said, they're trying to change the narrative and trying to act like these protests and these riots, these anarchists that are provoking everything, like they're just trying to, you know,
shift the blame.
Like I said last week, those anarchists and those people starting up stuff, to me, they were paid. And some of them could have been police officers. They could have been white nationalists with some covers over the, you know, with some masks over their face. You know, they're used to that.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead,
I mean, the police unions, they're making that narrative because they're trying to muddy the waters. Mm-hmm. You know, and you saw the LAPD union leader a few days ago, 2 days ago, was saying like, oh, you guys cut funding from us, then call times are going to increase. You know, we're not going to have enough officers to respond to a situation. I mean, and that's to me, that's the point. That's the point, like the point that I was making earlier. So why are you having patrol officers, you know, get some of these reports when you can have other trained staff go out and do that? I'm not saying that we don't need cops to respond to a bank heist, but don't sit up here and have the same officer respond to this crisis, you know, for a survivor of rape. Don't have that same officer go do patrol and pull somebody over for a traffic ticket. Don't have that same officer go out and you know, go beat some people up at the protest, which is what, you know, what they're doing. You know, so we need to rethink about how they even interact with us, because right now it's too toxic. They're over militarized and they get giddy when they can use force because there's no responsibility. There's no accountability. They beat somebody over the head, you know, and they'll go and joke around about it back at the station. They literally have people training them. I heard this in a commission meeting that if they kill somebody, they're going to have the best sex of their life that night.
Did you guys hear that the man who had his knee on George Floyd his bail was posted by like $1 million in fundraising, like somebody fundraising.
Yes.
To get him out of jail and to post his bail, right? Like there's a system in place, right?
Yeah.
Like, think about like you, Daisy, you mentioned Harriet Tubman, right? Like there was no way that think about it. White folks were pissed off that a 5'2" Black woman eluded them for years. For years, she eluded them. Like, we can't be outsmarted by somebody we own. Right. So, of course, the narrative is she had to have somebody helping her, right? Besides the Lord. She had to have, you know, this, that, and the third. You have to have a different narrative to cover up your own issues, your own insecurities, your own shortcomings. It can't be about you. We just talked about it with performative, you know, allies. It can't be me. So if I'm, you know, I have to appear as though I'm woke. So nobody really comes for me, and therefore I don't really need to be woke.
Yeah.
You know, that is what I think we are experiencing, is like there will always be a counter narrative to the actual narrative to take us off the scent, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're, as people, we're like this, what flashing lights, glitter, you know? And so if we can, but we have to be really steadfast. And I think you and I, Daisy, were talking about this. The last thing I'll say is we were talking about this before, is like protest isn't just in the street. Mm-hmm. Protest is with your money, it's with your mind, it's with being free here first.
Absolutely.
You have to be free here first. And then you have to be free enough to want to hold your community down, mm-hmm. right? And then you have to be free enough to want to only spend your money with folks who are economically for the solidarity and equity. I love what that one woman said. She said, "You lucky we just want equity and not revenge."
Yeah. But trust me, isn't that what most white people have feared the most since the 3/5 compromise?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also Oklahoma, like,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, who has seen that in a history book? Just show who saw that.
No.
Nobody wants to raise your hand. Nobody.
I learned about it. You know where I learned about it? Look, to be truthfully honest, thankfully, you know, we had I was exposed to email at a young age, but I got it because our grandfather sent me a chain letter talking about the Tulsa massacre with a bunch of pictures in it. And, you know, it was all in big letters and Comic Sans and, you know, all that, you know, how the chain letters used to be. But that was the first time I knew about it. And I remember going to college, telling my friends about it, about Black Wall Street and stuff like that. And they were like, huh, what are you talking about?
Right. Mm-hmm. But it was the griot, right? It was the storyteller in the family that told you this.
Yeah.
Like my mom I thought she was crazy, but my mom was about that life, even though she moved us to the suburbs. So I couldn't watch TV during the week. She wasn't about that. And I remember I was bringing home what I was learning at school, and y'all are maybe too old to remember this, but Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, we had those.
We had that, right.
It had this special series on Black folks. So it's like Black inventors, Black kings and queens, Black this, Black that, like Black. So she had bought the whole series. Mm. And after I was done with my homework, I was going to do my Black homework. Mm. So 2nd through, I think, 7th grade, like, Yolanda Holmes was not a game. She was not a joke. She wasn't playing with nobody. She was like, you can go and learn these white people stuff at the white people school. But when you come here, home, you're going to know who the inventors, kings, and queens were. So I had to write a page as a 2nd grader. Yes, a full page as a 2nd grader on whatever inventor I learned about, because it wasn't going to happen at school. And that's what I'm talking about us like being community oriented to teach each other.
Yeah.
I think that is a huge wake-up call for a lot of us, is to learn and to unlearn and to relearn and to unlearn again, because there is always new information that we could get, but it's always, sometimes it's convoluted by what we received when we were younger or through elementary school. And just to revert it back to our conversation earlier, regarding like white people and how they don't get it, it was infused in them when they were little, when they were children. Racism is not born, you're not born a racist. It is, you were educated as a racist, or like as an implicit or explicit biases, like that is ingrained in you. It is something that you learn from like 0 to 7 years old. And you have no recollection of it because your mind is still developing at that age. So you learn to be a racist when you're at the prime age of learning. So you have no idea where you got it from. You have to unlearn it. You have to relearn and know what your history is. So I'm glad that you brought that up. But to close out our Politricks section, Trump decided to have his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. As we just mentioned, it was the site of a Black massacre and Black Wall Street. He decided to have his rally there on Juneteenth, which we all know is the day that slavery ended in America. But also the day, but he decided to have it in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Black Wall Street and the massacre of hundreds of Black people happened. Do you know how insidious that is? I just wanted to bring that up because he only changed his mind because the Black people who support him came after him and was like, you must have lost your mind because you're going to lose us too. He was about to lose the Black vote is what happened.
So why he
changed it to the 20th?
But
I bring that up.
I don't see how some of them Black people who do support him, I don't see why they still would. I mean, but then again, I'm gonna just say it. Some of them are just like that, And I would call them a derogatory term, but I'm gonna save that with the doctor present here. But
I know the term. I just don't.
But I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Crazy.
I think it's just
I
terrible.
refuse to acknowledge this conversation because I refuse to acknowledge him. So,
right. It is like,
it was funny. But so he rescinded that. But what's funny is that today is this guy's birthday. And what I've been seeing on Twitter is that people are calling they're calling it President Obama Day today. And they're talking about
I love it.
Anderson
posted 5 pictures. It was the greatest thing. Like I was scrolling and it was like 3 people that, I know personally, and then Anthony Anderson, and then 3 people I know personally, and then another Anthony. He was like, I am going in. I was like, I love Black people. We have no chill and we give 0.
Yes.
Right? 0.
Right.
I'm a doctor. I'm gonna act like one today. See, Darren, how I pulled that out. Rick, you might have got that out though.
Oh
my God.
All right, you guys. Well, this has been a great Oliver Happy Hour. We like to end it with just a few last comments. Dr. B, thank you for joining us. Do you have any final words or any messages out to the people that you like to share?
Listen, thank you, Olivers. I have loved your whole family before I ever met anybody except for Daisy, because y'all just seem like the dopest family in the world. So thank you for having me on the Oliver Happy Hour. It has been my pleasure. I would just end with the mantra that I shared. Let us hold each other down and lift each other up.
Thank you.
Great.
That's great.
Dr. B, it was a pleasure, okay? It was a pleasure to have you on. I enjoyed you. I enjoyed your perspective, your expertise, okay? We got a doctor on the show. Thank you. No, but...
I'm feeling myself for the next 12 hours, and then I'm go to work and be like, oh.
Don't do that. No, but I do like your mantra. Let's all hold each other down and lift each other up. I'm all for that. I'm all for supporting the Black entrepreneurs, the Black businesses. I feel like we should all come together, stick together, just how the Jews do. Okay, we need to freaking come together and have this. I don't know. We should just be together. We should just come together. I was trying to go somewhere with it, but I lost. But anyways, I want everybody to just love each other. If you have to take a break from social media to have, that mental break, please do so, because it could take you down. It could take you to dark places. So,
thank you, Debbie.
Love all.
Yeah.
Great. Darren.
Yeah, so I think it's just important to keep your eyes open. All of this stuff is happening for a reason. I think, as a spiritual person, this is a part of, I feel like this is a part of God's plan. He shut us inside, got us all worked up and attentive. And then all this stuff is happening amongst us. And he continues to give us intuitive sense as we begin to focus on him, and as we begin to see this happen, like you said, I love what you said, Doc, about, I hope you don't mind me saying Doc, but
I love it.
You know, we do have to realize, you know, some of these things and the things that are going on with us, and how I was gonna make a point, but I lost it. What I do want to say is that in the midst of us doing all this, I did find the SayHerName project from the African American Policy Forum, which does list out in the last 5 years the Black women who have perished at the hands of police officers. And just to say a few of their names, since we talked about a Tatiana Jefferson, so I'm going to go back. A Tatiana Jefferson from October 2019, Pamela Turner from May 2019, the Cynthia Clements from March 2018, Charlena Lyles from June 2017, Michelle Shirley from October 2016, Deborah Danner from October 2016, and Corinne Gaines from August 1st, 2016. So that already, like, look at that. Those are already names just in the last 4 years, you know, of people, like you said, that unfortunately they've gone up under the rug, while, you know, we've had other people like Stephon Clark or Alton Sterling or Philando Castile in the midst of their deaths in between. It's all these women that have perished, and we have to say their names too, because it's all of us, you know, not just one or the other.
That's powerful for a Black man to say their names. Reverend Darren is what I'm gonna call you from now on. I hope you don't mind. Reverend Darren, I appreciate you saying Black women's names with so much power and conviction. That's dope.
Yeah.
Well, you said it, and I was like, you know what? I need to look it up, because I had slipped on a Tatiana's name, and I was like, you know what? I can't. And then I was like, where is it at? Where is it at? I was trying to find it, because I saw these news articles that just talk about it, like, oh, well, they want Black women to say that. I was like, no, where's the list? Right. But actually, if you guys go to the aapf.org, it's the African American Policy Forum, they have their Say Your Name report. So check it out. I just found it right now.
Algorithms of Oppression by Sophia Noble, PhD. She's a professor at UCLA. She talks about why it's so hard to find Black women's names, you know? So shout out to Sophia, my homegirl. But, you know, you'll be able to find out why it's hard to find that list in a book like hers.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Maisha B. Thank you so much for mentioning Dr. Sophia, because I was thinking about her, and I want her to be a part of this next, you know, one of the next episodes. She is our girl as well, and a very dear friend and trusted mentor. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining the Oliver Happy Hour, and for your light and for your love. You have been a joy, and I really do hope that as a guest that you come back, because we do like to have guests back, and you are welcome to come, and anytime you want to join in the conversation, it's going to be an uplifting time. My final comments to you guys is just, you know, love is the end all, the most precious gift that God has given us to share with one another. I just pray that we continue to love each other through this movement, love each other through the pain of what we're going through right now, and love each other as we continue to grow and become better for a better society. So thank you for joining today, and I hope you all come back. We went live today for the first time on Facebook through Zoom. So this is definitely something we'll be doing more often. We're back on live on Facebook. So check us out next time, and let us know if you have any questions. See you guys next time.
Wait.
Oh, thank you, Devin. Proverbs. You know what? Proverbs 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord. Have you said it?
And lean not on your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
It's yours, it's mine, only one at a time.